Welcome to another deep dive where we try to figure out if someone is a grifter or gifted. Today we're taking a look at Anna Wintour. You know her as the editor-in-chief of Vogue. Some people praise her, but other people demonize her for the impact she's had on the fashion world.
Yeah, it's interesting how polarizing she is.
We're going to try and figure out if she's a true visionary or just a really good manipulator. To do this, we're going to use articles and even some social media reactions. We'll also be taking a look at the Devil Wears Prada.
It's fascinating how one person can make people feel so strongly. You either love her or you hate her. It really speaks to just how much power she has, but also to the ambiguity of her motives.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we're going to try and figure out today. So let's start by going back a bit and looking at her career. Wintour didn't just magically appear at the top of the fashion world. Her family has deep roots in journalism. Her father was an editor for the Evening Standard, and her great-grandmother founded several magazines. It really seems like media runs in her blood.
Yeah, and it's interesting how she was able to use that background to navigate the fashion world. And the fashion world is not known for being easy. She started out as an editorial assistant and worked her way up. She worked at Harper's Bazaar, Viva, and Savvy, before finally getting to Vogue. She was clearly ambitious and really determined to succeed.
Yeah, it definitely made an impact. But it wasn't just her editorial decisions that got everyone's attention. It was also how she presented herself. The sunglasses, the bob, that icy stare that everyone talks about. She created this image of mystery and power.
And that image is what makes people ask if it's all an act, or if that's just who she is. Because if it's all an act, that's actually genius.
And speaking of genius, we have to talk about The Devil Wears Prada. The book and movie really took the world by storm.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It was written by Lauren Weisberger. She used to be Wintour's assistant. A lot of people think the book is based on Wintour and her world. Meryl Streep's Miranda Priestley is basically supposed to be Anna Wintour.
It is fiction, but you can definitely see the similarities. The demanding boss, the stressful work environment, having to do all these impossible tasks. It all really makes you think about what it would be like to work at Vogue. And the fact that so many people love the book and the movie makes you think that maybe there is some truth to it.
Yeah, and that leads to some pretty serious questions, like if the book is even a little bit accurate, maybe Wintour's leadership style is actually kind of toxic. Is that really necessary to be successful in fashion? Or is that just her personality?
That's what we need to figure out to know if she's a grifter or gifted. Someone who's a visionary might be demanding. But a good leader helps those around them grow. They don't just use people to get ahead.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the controversial things Wintour has done. One thing that people keep bringing up is how Vogue, when Wintour was in charge, promoted really unrealistic beauty standards and also elitism.
Right. There's been a lot of talk about how much she likes fur, and obviously animal rights activists are not happy about that. Plus, there's been a lack of diversity in the magazine for a long time, especially when she was in charge. There was even that British Vogue cover in 2022 with 9 African models, and they made their skin look darker in the photos. People said that was promoting harmful stereotypes.
And we can't forget about all the drama on social media over Kamala Harris's Vogue cover in 2021. People thought it was way too casual.
Yeah.
And kind of disrespectful to the vice president.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
But Wintour said they were just trying to capture Harris's personality.
But what's interesting is that people didn't really believe her. It's like no one trusts her anymore. They think everything she does is planned out to make her look good, which honestly could mean she's really smart. Or maybe it means she's just totally out of touch.
And then there's her loyalty to people like John Galliano and Karl Lagerfeld. They've both been accused of saying and doing some pretty offensive things, but she's always stood by them. Is that just her being loyal? Or is she letting them get away with bad behavior?
Yeah, it's really hard to say. It makes you wonder if she cares more about talent and connections than she does about being ethical. And then there was that whole thing where student activists got arrested for protesting the Met Gala. That's another event that she's super involved in. It just adds to all the ethical questions about her.
But it's not all bad. She does a lot to support Democratic candidates like Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. And she's really good at raising money for places like the Metropolitan Museum of Art and the Council of Fashion Designers of America.
That's true. But even then, people are suspicious. They think she just does those things to make herself look good and to network with powerful people. It's not because she actually cares.
Right, so is she using her influence to help people? Or is she just trying to help herself? That speech Naomi Campbell gave when Wintour gave her an award is a good example. Campbell made a joke about how Wintour is always on time, but then she thanked her for helping her career.
That was a great speech. It shows how complicated their relationship is. You can tell that Campbell doesn't totally agree with Wintour. But she also can't deny that Wintour had a huge impact on her life.
To really understand Wintour's impact,
Yeah.
we have to talk about the Met Gala. It's become basically the same thing as her name and influence. She took a small event and turned it into a huge spectacle.
Before Wintour took over, the Met Gala was just a fundraiser for the Costume Institute at the Met. It was just a local thing. But Wintour saw how important it could be. Now it's the biggest night for fashion, with huge celebrities and amazing fashion.
But the Met Gala also gets a lot of criticism because it's so over the top and elitist.
Yeah, some people say it's all about celebrities now, and it's lost the real meaning of fashion. Plus, it costs a ton of money. And it seems so out of touch with what's happening in the real world. Julie Macklow even called it a giant hoss show full of naked nobodies.
Wow, that's harsh. But it shows how much some people hate the direction the Met Gala has taken with Wintour in charge. Is she so focused on being the center of attention in the fashion world that she's forgotten about everything else?
It's a good question. And that brings us to the next part of our deep dive. How has Wintour reacted to all these criticisms? Can she change and adapt as the world changes? Stay tuned. Welcome back to our deep dive all about Anna Wintour.
Last time we looked at how she became so powerful in the fashion world, and we talked about that book and movie The Devil Wears Prada, and of course all the controversies that she's been involved in throughout her career.
Yeah, it seems like everything she does makes some people love her and some people hate her.
It's true. We saw how she made Vogue super famous around the world, but then people say she's also promoting things like elitism and impossible beauty standards, and even protecting people who are doing bad things.
There's just so much to talk about with her.
I know, right? Today we're going to really get into those criticisms. Like, how has she responded to them? Can she even handle all the changes happening in fashion right now? Like, everyone wants more inclusivity and sustainability now. So will she be remembered as someone who did good things, or as a symbol of everything that's wrong with the fashion industry?
Those are the questions we need to think about to figure out if she's a grifter or gifted.
Let's start with the whole diversity issue at Vogue. People have been complaining about that for years.
It's true, and it's a problem with the entire fashion industry. It's always had problems with inclusivity. But Wintour is in charge of Vogue, so she could really make a difference.
And she has admitted that she's made mistakes and said that she wants to do better. Back in 2020, when all those protests were happening after George Floyd was killed, she sent a memo to everyone who works at Vogue, taking responsibility for the magazine's problems.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. She basically said that Vogue didn't do enough to support Black creators, and that sometimes things were hurtful and intolerant at the magazine. When she was in charge,
That was a big deal for her to admit that.
it was, even though some people thought she was just doing it because she had to, because everyone was criticizing her. But it wasn't just about apologizing. She also told her staff, especially the Black employees, to tell her what they thought needed to change. So it seemed like she was really trying to make things better at Vogue.
But you know what they say, actions speak louder than words. So did she actually change anything, or was it all just for show?
That's the hard part. There have been times when it seems like she hasn't learned anything, like that British Vogue cover from 2022
Yeah.
with the 9 African models, and they edited the photos to make their skin darker.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That didn't look good.
No, it didn't. It made people wonder if she really cared about diversity at all. So is she really changing? Or is she just pretending to change so that people don't get mad at her?
It's hard to know what she's really thinking.
On one hand, she's built her whole career on a very specific idea of beauty. And a lot of people would say that idea excludes a lot of people.
Right.
But the fashion world is changing so fast now.
It really is.
It's all about body positivity and different kinds of beauty now, and representing different cultures.
It's a good thing.
It is. So the question is, can Wintour keep up with those changes? Can she still be important in the fashion world when it's rejecting all the beauty standards that she's been promoting for so long?
That's a great question.
What she said about Kamala Harris's Vogue cover might tell us something. She said that they wanted to show how genuine and approachable Harris is, so maybe she's willing to change and realize that what's fashionable and cool is not the same as it used to be.
Yeah, maybe.
But it's also possible that she was just trying to avoid more drama
Right.
and to make Vogue look more progressive. It's so hard to tell what she's really thinking. That's what makes her so interesting,
Right.
but also so hard to put into a category. Is she really trying to change the fashion industry for the better? Or is she just using this whole inclusivity thing to stay powerful?
That's what we need to figure out. Is she a grifter or gifted?
To understand how much of an impact she's had, we have to talk about the Met Gala. It's basically her biggest contribution to the fashion world. And it really shows how she can take something small and make it into a global event.
Totally. Before Wintour took over, the Met Gala was just a fundraiser for the Costume Institute at the Met. Nobody really knew about it.
But she saw how special it could be.
Yeah. Now it's like the biggest night in fashion. Everyone wants to be there.
But a lot of people don't like the Met Gala either. They say it's too focused on celebrities and that it's lost its connection to real fashion. And then there's the whole issue of elitism and extravagance. Like, it's so disconnected from the real world.
Yeah.
Remember when Julie Macklow called it a giant Assos show?
Oh, yeah.
That's basically how a lot of people feel about it.
Right.
So is Wintour so focused on creating this big spectacle and staying at the top of the fashion world that she's forgotten what really matters?
It makes you wonder.
It does. And it's not just about the party itself. People have been protesting the Met Gala, too, saying that the fashion industry is bad for the environment and that it treats its workers unfairly.
Oh, yeah.
And then the people who work at Condé Nast almost went on strike in 2023. They wanted to get paid more, and they wanted better working conditions.
It seems like the Met Gala has become a symbol of everything that's wrong with the fashion industry. All the creativity and beauty, but also all the ethical problems.
Exactly. So where does Wintour stand on all of this? Has she used her power to make things better, or is she just part of the problem?
It's a tough question.
I know.
She has tried to address some of these issues, like talking about sustainable fashion and supporting new designers from different backgrounds.
That's true.
But is that enough? Is she really trying to change the industry, or is she just trying to make herself look good?
It's hard to know for sure. But her legacy is definitely connected to these questions. She's had a huge impact on the fashion world. But it goes beyond just clothes and runaways. She's involved in politics. She does philanthropy. She's a cultural icon. So in the last part of our deep dives, we're going to look at all those different parts of her life and try to figure out if she's ultimately a force for good, or if she's a symbol of an industry that's out of touch with reality.
We'll see how much power she has in politics. And look at all the charity work she does, and finally we'll try to answer that big question. Grifter or gifted?
Welcome back to our deep dive into the world of Anna Wintour.
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it?
It really has. We've talked about how she became so powerful in the fashion world and all those controversies about how she leads and the ethical issues with things like the Met Gala.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
We have. But now in this final part, we want to go beyond the runways and glossy magazines to see how Wintour has impacted the world. Is she really trying to make a difference? Or is she just looking out for herself?
The million-dollar question, right? Grifter or gifted? Maybe we can figure it out by looking at her political involvement.
Good idea.
Wintour's been supporting Democratic candidates and their causes for a long time.
She has.
She's held fundraisers for Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and even Joe Biden.
Yeah, and apparently she's used her connections to get designers into politics.
Interesting.
It is. Some people see that as her being truly progressive.
Right.
But others think it's just her way of staying close to powerful people.
Yeah. Is she really passionate about these causes? Or is it just about networking and helping her own career?
It's hard to know for sure.
It is.
But one thing's for sure, she's become a big name in politics. Her endorsements can really make a difference. And her fundraisers are like magnets for the elite.
Yeah, she definitely knows how to use her influence to support things she believes in.
Or at least things that benefit her.
Maybe both.
And it's not just about which political party she supports. She's also involved in a lot of charities, raising millions of dollars for places like the Metropolitan Museum of Art.
Right, and the Council of Fashion Designers of America.
But even with all that, there are still people who don't trust her.
Of course.
They say she only supports the arts and new designers because it helps her professionally.
Yeah. So is she genuinely trying to make the world a better place? Or is it all just a big PR stunt to make her look good and stay in control?
That question has followed her forever. And it'll probably still be debated even after she's done with Vogue.
I think you're right.
Yeah. We can't end this deep dive without talking about the sunglasses. They're like her trademark.
They are iconic.
They add to her whole mysterious and powerful image.
They really do.
Wintour has said that she wears them because of her eyesight. She's had problems with her vision for years.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. But she's also said that they're like a wall between her and other people.
Interesting.
So she can stay calm and in control, even when things are crazy.
I mean, it's pretty smart, whether she meant to do it or not. Those sunglasses have become a symbol of her power and her mysterious personality.
It all goes back to the idea that image is everything in fashion. And Wintour knows that better than anyone.
For sure.
So after all this, what do you think? Is she a grifter or gifted?
That's the big question, isn't it? We've seen that she's a complicated person. She's done some good things and some not so good things. She's clearly a brilliant businesswoman, and she's had a huge impact on the fashion industry.
But she's also been accused of being elitist
Hmm.
and promoting unrealistic beauty standards and protecting people who are doing bad things and even using her political connections in charity work to help herself.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about.
It is.
I guess everyone has to decide for themselves what they think of her. There's no right or wrong answer.
Yes, what makes deep dives like this so interesting. It's not about finding one simple answer. It's about looking at all the different sides of someone,
Mhm.
especially someone who's so powerful and influential.
Right.
It's about asking tough questions
Yeah.
and looking at things from different perspectives, because even the most successful people are complicated. So here's something for you to think about. In a world where everyone's obsessed with looking good and being famous online, where it's hard to tell what's real and what's fake, how can we tell the real visionaries from the people who are just really good at manipulating others?
That's a great question. And it's not just about Anna Wintour. It's about all kinds of powerful people in all kinds of industries.
So be careful out there. Pay attention. And don't believe everything you see and hear.
Good advice.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and keep searching for the truth.